Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. And I might be a little bit more frustrated with this because I had to redo this one. Because there was a good take I did with this video and I had to throw it away because something was just interrupting it. So this is kind of the redo video of that. So if I'm not talking that much about it, it's probably because I already talked a lot about it in the first take, but now I had to get rid of that one. And I did not want to split this into two parts because this is a pretty basic video. And I don't think it's a two-part thing where I was like, damn, you know what? I have to compromise and do a part two. But anyways, that's kind of the intro. But today's video is going to be on if was it a mistake for James Gunn to announce the DC Slate so early. And what I mean by that is, was it a mistake for him to announce it earlier in the year and not at a Comic-Con or not at the end of the year where a lot of this DC stuff could come out and they see what is successful, what's not successful, what to continue, what not to continue. But I know a lot of people would have been begging James Gunn for answers anyway. So without further ado, let's go through the slate of his stuff. And of course, the slate that he has, this is not the entire slate, but he has a live-action Waller TV show. He has an animated Creature Commando series. It's the only animated thing on this list. But you also have a live-action movie, Superman Legacy, which he's making that movie, hot off the wheels of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which has been highly praised, and people have been loving it. And Guardians 3 is an MCU movie, sure. It's classified like that, whatever, I'm not going to take that away from Marvel. But I feel like that was more of a James Gunn win than a Marvel win, because I feel like James Gunn needed to show, yeah, I could still make a great movie. He was already still making great movies with Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, but now he's really showing, yeah, I could make a great movie that's very well loved, very well liked, and is doing well at the box office. So that should give Warner Brothers confidence in Superman Legacy and whether to do that. From there, you have Lanterns, a live-action show. You have The Authority, a live-action movie. Paradise Lost, a live-action show. Brave and the Bold, another live-action Batman movie, which I'm not the biggest fan of them having two Batman franchises going up against each other, because you're going to have the Brave and the Bold, which is going to be more Bat family focused, which I think was the smarter route to do. Because you're going to be opposing it to Robert Pattinson's Batman, which is not really Bat family centric. It's very much so about him being on his lonesome. But then you have a Supergirl live action movie also based off the Woman of Tomorrow comic run. I've heard a lot of great things. I haven't read that run, but I've heard a lot of great things about that comic series. And of course, you have a live action Swamp Thing movie. And so you have all these projects, and then you have a live-action Booster Gold show. For me, the slate is just okay. I mean, honestly, this is only like a little bit of Chapter 1, like James Gunn said. But so far, it's a little all over the place, because you have Creature Commandos, which I do not think should kick off the DCU. I don't think it should do that. I think you should have a proper movie like Superman Legacy kick off the DCU. I think that would make people immediately get into the heads of like, oh man, this is gonna be this is the new universe, this is a reset, all that stuff. Also, I don't know how I feel about Waller being a part of it. I think Waller should have been Elseworlds, to be honest, because I feel that Peacemaker and Waller is a part of the DCEU, and that should not be a part of the DCU. Even though James Gunn made those projects, well, he isn't making Waller, but he did make Peacemaker, and he made Suicide Squad, or the Suicide Squad, I should say. But I think Waller should have been an Elseworlds show. I don't think it should be a part of the DCU, because obviously with this slate of movies and shows that he announced, it's very obvious that they're doing something new, that they want to do something new. That's all they're doing. They're not really doing anything that connects to the DCEU, except the only shows that do are Creature Commandos and Waller. Those are the only shows that really connect to the older DCEU, and I think you could have did these a little later. In fact, as I said, you could have did Waller's and Elseworlds. And I don't think we really need Creature Commandos. But at the same time, this is James Gunn Slate. This is very James Gunn, and so we're gonna see how these are gonna fit to each other, anyways. But that was just me. That's how I personally felt. I felt like you should have did a hard reboot. You should not carry anything over from the DCEU, even if it's your own work. And I know that's a hard thing to do, but I feel like he gave himself an out with DC Elseworlds, and that should be the route that they continue the Peacemaker side of things. But anyways, as I said, I think this slate is okay. Honestly, a lot of these projects could be great or amazing or good or bad. It really just kind of depends. We have to see how the first one comes out, and it seems like the first one that's going to come out is going to be Creature Commandos next year, as they already have casting for that. And they said the casting for the animated show is going to tie into the casting for the live, for when these characters come into live action. And most of the casting choices, great. Except for Frank Grillo has Rick Flag Sr. because he does not look like Rick Flag Sr. He looks the same age as the guy that played Rick Flag Jr. So, I don't know how I feel about that casting. But outside of that, Creature Commandos is going to be the first legit James Gunn DC project. That's going to be a part of the DCU. So we're going to see how that turns out. And Superman Legacy is going to be the first legit James Gunn DCU movie. That's going to put him to the test on whether or not the DCU is going to be the more successful route to go for Warner Brothers than the DCEU. And so that's going to be very interesting. But yeah, overall, the slate itself is interesting. It's interesting. That's all I really have to say for it. So what about the current DC slate? So currently, the current DC movies, how have they been impacted? Well, Blue Beetle and The Flash, we kind of know where they're going to kind of be in. So Blue Beetle, that's the first one I'm going to talk about. Blue Beetle, we know is going to take place in James Gunn's universe. James Gunn has stated this, that Blue Beetle will be a part of the DCU, which makes sense because it's not a project that's connected heavily to any other DCEU project, like DCEU projects, I should say, unlike the other three movies I'm about to talk about. And on top of that, Blue Beetle is a character that meshes well with Booster Gold, and so I think that character works perfectly for James Gunn's universe. So I think Blue Beetle, I think that's smart. That's why I said in an earlier video, they should delay Blue Beetle till next year so that it could be a part of more of James Gunn's DCU instead of being a part of the world of I was about to say the world of DC. I don't know, that name's been in my head for a while, but that's what I was kind of calling James Gunn's DC universe. But anyways, that Blue Beetle could be a part of James Gunn's DCU instead of being a part of the DCEU. Then you have Aquaman 2. James Gunn has not really said if Aquaman 2 takes place in the DCEU, if it takes place in the DCU. And this is part of the confusion. This is part of the confusion that fans have, because fans are confused, like, wait a minute, why is Waller, which is kind of a continuation of Peacemaker, and why is Creature Commandos canon to the DCU, but Aquaman is, you don't know, and where does Aquaman fit, and why are certain things in the DCEU getting cut, but other things aren't? So that's why I said they should have went for a hard reboot instead of a soft reboot. I don't think that was a smart move, and I think if they still wanted to continue the Peacemaker storyline, they could have did it in Elseworlds. But anyways, with Aquaman 2, he hasn't really said if it's canon or not. And I think that's because he probably doesn't want to ruin the Flash movie, or he probably just doesn't know if he wants to carry over the Aquaman franchise. Peter Safran, who is the co-head of the DC Studios and is the main producer behind the Aquaman movies, has said that him and Jason Momoa do want to make a third Aquaman movie. They want to make a third Aquaman movie. Whether that has I was about to say Jason, but whether that has James Wan, we don't know, because I don't think James Wan wants to do another Aquaman movie, seeing how this one has been just treated poorly. And also, is Aquaman 2 going to be as big of a hit as the first one, especially now with the baggage of the DC universe? I don't know. A lot of people don't know the first Aquaman made $1 billion, so we don't know. But with this reboot announcement, are people going to be like, who cares? They're going to reboot Aquaman anyways, so why am I going to support the movie? Is that why James Gunn's so coy about it? Or is he going to reveal where Aquaman fits in at Comic-Con? I don't know. I don't know where Aquaman's going to fit. Aquaman's the only variable that we don't know where it's going to fit. Then we go into, I want to save The Flash for last, but then we go into Shazam 2, which is out of the four, the only movie that has released so far at the time that I'm making this video. I assume that in like 3 weeks, well, not assume, but like in 3 weeks, The Flash is going to come out. So you got to have these first two movies left over from the old regime that are going to come out. But Shazam! Fury of the Gods, sequel to a movie, although I love the first Shazam, it's a sequel to a movie that did not do well the first time. The first Shazam was not that massive of a hit. And that had a lot to do with the release date of the first Shazam movie, putting it in between Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame. And Warner Brothers somehow made the same mistake twice with the second Shazam movie. They barely promoted it. And they put it, that's not even a word, but they put it in a crowded marketplace in March, where you have Creed 3, Scream 6, John Wick Chapter 4, and Dungeons and Dragons. And two movies had to pay the price, and that was Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Dungeons and Dragons. Shazam! Fury of the Gods grossed $133 million worldwide. Movies, superhero movies, can make that domestically. Hell, The Batman by Matt Reeves made more in its opening weekend domestically than Shazam! Fury of the Gods did in its entire worldwide theatrical run. So the movie's a failure. They upped the budget. It was over $120 million. So again, very cheap for superhero standards, because the first one wasn't that expensive. They're not making that money back. They didn't even make the movie profitable. So it's the lowest grossing DCEU movie, which also includes Wonder Woman 1984, which came out at the peak of the pandemic in 2020. In 2020. The year where barely any movies, if at all, were even hitting theaters. When theaters were shut down because of the global pandemic. Wonder Woman, the movie that came out in that time frame, did more than Shazam 2, which came out this year. At a time where movies are doing pretty good at the box office. All right, they're doing way better than what they were doing in 2020. So I think that's a real big factor. I think business-wise, DC, and this is another one heavily produced by Peter Safran, but I think this is going to be one where they're like, we're not going to continue the Zachary Levi iteration anymore. People just do not care about this character. They don't care about this version. So we're not going to continue this. I don't think that means that we're not going to have a Shazam or Captain Marvel in James Gunn's DCU, but I think they're not going to continue the Zachary Levi version. And Zachary Levi has been pleading. He's really been wanting people to support the Shazam franchise. But at the end of the day, it made $133 million worldwide. There's so much Warner Brothers and DC can do until audiences show them that they don't care. And so I don't think they're going to continue the Shazam franchise anymore, at least this version of the Shazam franchise. I can see them later on down the line doing a new Shazam with a new actor and redoing it in the James Gunn's universe. But I do not see them doing that with this Zachary Levi version. But, so you would think, all right, this is obvious. Shazam's not going to be part of James Gunn's DCU. They're done with that franchise. They're done. But there's one tricky thing. The post, or should I say the mid-credit scene, where Emilia Harcourt and Economos from Peacemaker show up to recruit Shazam in the Justice Society. Now, this could be a little throwaway post-credit scene, but these characters are most likely going to be in the Waller show, which is connected to Peacemaker. And Creature Commandos is like, so the little Suicide Squad mini-universe we have right now, Shazam got recruited by two characters of that. They could still throw away Shazam. They could still not continue it, but does that mean James Gunn could potentially have future plans for Zachary Levi's version of Shazam in upcoming projects? Who knows, but I think they are definitively done with the Shazam movie franchise. And I think they are definitively done with Zachary Levi's take on the character. It's just that mid-credit scene that makes things a little like, where are we going with this? Or does this even matter? Which leads us into the Flash movie. And it was obvious day one, before James Gunn even announced anything, what this movie was going to be for the DC universe, for the DCEU, and for the DCU. This was going to be the movie that ends the DCEU and kind of retcons us and reboots us, or in a way, or soft reboot. I think they should do hard reboot. And I had an idea for how they could handle Ezra Miller's continuation of Flash, which is that I should not say he, but they cannot continue that character anymore. But anyways, yeah, so Flash is going to be resetting everything. It's going to be the big reset. And I think that is going to really help Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is very confident in this movie, by the way. They've been doing a lot of screenings. For the first time in I don't know how long, Warner Brothers was willing to do a Super Bowl spot for the Flash movie. So they're confident in the Flash film as a movie. So Warner Brothers really wants that movie to succeed. But I do not think that the Flash is going to get a sequel, or they're going to continue it in James Gunn's DC universe. But who knows with Warner Brothers, since they really want this movie to do well. And they've shown it to every single celebrity they could. So they really want the Flash to do very well. So we're going to have to see. But anyway, speaking of Flash, James Gunn has confirmed this is going to reset it. So I think an ending they could do, have Flash reset the DCEU to the DCU, but have a mid-credit scene or a post-credit scene where you kind of jump a little bit in time. You jump until 2025 in the timeline, because I think the movie takes place in 2023. Let's not get into it. But you just jump a little forward in time to around, let's say, where Superman Legacy might take place in the DCU timeline. And you have Barry Allen's Flash be dead, like he's dead, but you have Wally West continue his legacy as the Flash. And that's how you can continue to have the Flash in movies, in future James Gunn DCU movies, by also having you're gonna have a new actor play Flash, but B, it doesn't have to be Barry Allen anymore. It could be Wally West, and that's an easy cop out they can do. But that's just an idea. Again, I'm not saying this is what they should do. This is just kind of an idea that's throwing in like, hey, you can do this. But overall, we already know what Flash is going to stand. We know Flash is going to be the reset. We know Warner is extremely confident in this movie, and they want it to succeed. James Gunn's been gassing it up. So I think out of the four, the Flash is going to be the most successful out of these movies. Let's get into DC Elseworlds also, because I forgot to make that a section. But DC Elseworlds is going to have the Batman and Joker franchise. And so with the Joker franchise, I don't think it needed a sequel, but I think that the first Joker, massive hit movie, obviously. So we're going to see how well the sequel does. I think from the set photos, it looks pretty good, but we'll have to see on that. And then after, we have the Batman franchise, the first one, big hit. They're obviously going to do the sequel. They already confirmed Batman Part 2 for next year. Or not next year, for 2025. The Penguin show is going to come out very soon. Maybe most likely next year. But it did have to stop filming due to the writer's strike. But I don't think that's going to hurt anything for Penguin. I think they could just resume filming. And they're a couple years out from Penguin coming out anyway. So I think Penguin's going to do okay. I think Penguin will be fine. I don't think the writer's strike is going to impact it too badly. But let's hope. Let's hope the writer's strike kind of ends soon, so a lot of these projects could resume. Because I think the DCU, I forgot to say, is on pause because of the writer's strike. So hopefully the writers get their pay, and hopefully the writers get what they freaking deserve for writing all of these things that are making the studios money. But anyways, the Batman and Joker, they're going to continue as Elseworlds. DC could potentially do other Elseworld projects, but as of right now, in terms of the current slate of DC movies, it seems like Shazam is out. It seems like Aquaman's out. Flash is the finale. The DCEU is resetting everything, and Blue Beetle is most likely the only character and movie that's going to carry over into the James Gunn DCU. But what about the TV shows? Because as I mentioned, TV is also a big factor into what is happening in James Gunn's universe. And in terms of current DC shows, let's talk about the CW. Because the CW, a lot of their shows prior to James Gunn and Peter Safran being chosen as the creatives of DC, they obviously have been either canceled or they probably ended. And so the last Arrowverse show, The Flash, recently ended. I heard season 9 was butt though with the finale, with the series finale. But I don't even watch The Flash anymore. I only saw the first 3 seasons. That's about it. And everybody says that was the ending point to get off at, so I kind of just did that when I binged it a while back. But I feel bad for those Flash fans because they were really thought that series finale was going to be gas, and it did not end up being gas. But anyways, outside of that, we have only 2 DC CW shows left. And we can do a whole video about what's happening with CW. But the point is, CW has a new owner. I think Warner Brothers is no longer the owner of CW, or Warner Brothers and CBS are no longer the owners of the CW. So they're taking the CW and they're aiming it for a completely different demographic. Which means a lot of the CW shows, which means James Gunn stuff doesn't really impact this, but a lot of the CW shows have been canceled, or upcoming CW shows, whatever. Point is, they did a big purge on CW shows and projects. And when it comes to DC, the CW has confirmed that they're only going to choose one CW show. That out of Superman and Lois and Gotham Knights, they're only going to pick one of them to continue on the CW. Now, it seems like, from what everybody said, now obviously what you're going to think. If I was to tell you which show should you continue, Superman and Lois or Gotham Knights, everybody's going to pick Superman and Lois. But CW is going to pick Gotham Knights. Most likely. They haven't yet, but they're most likely going to continue Gotham Knights. Superman and Lois, however, Warner Brothers did say, if CW does not continue Superman and Lois, don't worry, we're going to continue it on our Max streaming service, which is such a stupid name for their streaming service, but they're going to continue it. So they've said they might continue Superman and Lois if it doesn't get picked up by the CW. On the other hand, you can still have the CW picking Superman and Lois to continue, and that means Gotham Knights is going to get canceled, which is the better timeline that we want, but knowing CW, they're going to go the other way. So it seems like those shows might still coexist depending on what show the CW picks to continue. And on the other hand, you have what were DC Universe streaming shows, now were HBO Max shows, now are just Max originals like Harley Quinn, Doom Patrol, and Titans, and Young Justice. Young Justice was already axed before Gunn and Safran became presidents again. Stargirl was sent to the CW, got axed. And recently they confirmed Titans and Doom Patrol are canceled, that they're no longer moving forward with those shows. And that's big for those fans of the shows. Titans is already over. Titans, they already ended that show. So Doom Patrol is really the last one to be left over. We still have the Harley Quinn animated series, but it seems like they're going to move forward with that. That they're going to move forward with Harley Quinn being a Max show. And so, with the upcoming future, we already know the DCU is going to have multiple streaming shows like Lanterns and Booster Gold and Paradise Lost. So, are a lot of these shows officially going to get out the way because the main DC shows at that point will be the DCU shows? Because we do know Warner Brothers wants a big cinematic universe, and basically they want to streamline DC. They don't want it to splinter off that much outside of the Batman and Joker universe and whatever else. They could maybe do in Elseworlds. Teen Titans Go and Harley Quinn. Seems like they're going to continue those. But one show that I did not mention that is a big factor is Peacemaker. Peacemaker is a make or break show because Peacemaker, we already talked about how the Waller show and Creature Commandos kind of ties into the Suicide Squad corner that James Gunn has made. And Waller is actually a direct sequel show, or spin-off show, I should say, of Peacemaker. And we know Waller is canonically going to take place in between season 1 and season 2 of Peacemaker. So where will Peacemaker season 2 go? Will Peacemaker season 2 be a part of maybe Elseworlds, like I think it should be? Will it be a part of the DCU, where it's most likely going to be? But also, when is season 2 of Peacemaker going to come out? Because I think James Gunn has said, well, obviously we know he's going to be busy with Superman, so he's not going to have time to film or even write the episodes for Peacemaker, because James Gunn's writing a lot of things. And on top of that, the writer's strike. So he can't even write anything right now. But anyways, Peacemaker season 2, he said most likely will come out in 2025. And that is a huge gap for a TV show. That's normal for movies and sequels, but for a TV show, that is a huge gap. That is, I'm talking Attack on Titan season 1, season 2 level gap. Like, that is a long ass time to wait for season 2 of Peacemaker to come out. I mean, the show came out in January of 2022. Season 1 ended in February of 2022. And we're most likely not going to get it in 2025, most likely late 2025. Yeah, that's crazy. Especially for a show at Peacemaker's level. That's crazy. But James Gunn has a lot on his plate, so we're going to see. So in terms of shows, we already know that the animated ones that are still going are most likely going to continue, but in terms of a lot of these live action shows, I can see them being completely done by the time the DCU actually starts. I feel a lot of these will be out the way. I think Superman and Lois, they might just give it one more season, and I feel like Gotham Knights is either way going to get canceled very soon. And we already know Doom Patrol's already on its way out, so yeah, I feel like a lot of these shows are going to be on their way out by the time the DCU starts, and that's going to be great for the DCU because that means their shows are going to be the only DC shows that really matter. So yeah, that seems to be what a lot of the shows that DC has going on, that seems to be their upcoming fate and future. In conclusion, was it a mistake for James Gunn to announce the reboot early? I think so, because I think the reboot being announced has affected Shazam's box office, and I think you should have said, yeah, a lot of these are not going to continue. I feel like either way, people would have been I think James Gunn maybe should have waited till maybe Comic-Con, but we already knew about Superman Legacy anyways, and that's the only one that's really kind of moving forward, because that's the only one that we know so far, outside of Creature Commandos, that has its script locked in. So that's good for Superman Legacy, but we don't know what that means for the DCU. So we might have to wait even longer for the DCU because of the writer's strike. So I think obviously the release, him announcing what's coming up in his slate of movies, heavily impacted the movies. The shows, not so much. I think the shows were gonna kind of end up like that anyways. I think The Flash was already on its way out. I think the CW thing has nothing to do with James Gunn, so that was also most likely gonna happen anyways. But I do think James Gunn's DCU slate had a way in Max or HBO or whatever they call their streaming service, canceling Titans and Doom Patrol. That they're like, we're done with these shows. They've ran their course. We have a new slate of shows that are going to come to our streaming service by DC, so let's get rid of Titans and Doom Patrol and whatnot. And then Peacemaker is all about James Gunn. It's all James Gunn. That's his choice on what to do with that. So we know Peacemaker is fully up in his hands. But overall, how do you guys feel about the current DCU slate? Do you think James Gunn, do you think it was a mistake for James Gunn to have announced the slate earlier instead of just waiting at Comic-Con? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.